Howdy folks, hopefully I've got a fun one for you today. I know I'm really excited about it. To give you a hint, we're looking at an AS350 RC helicopter. This is my 700 size one. However, the little unit we're going to be looking at today is in this small package. Let's get into it. Ooh, I can't wait. Can't wait. The XK K123 scale AS350 helicopter, here in North America known as the A-Star, also the Airbus A125, but I've had my eye on this for a while. I'm quite a fan of XK's micro helicopters. They make a decent little micro collective pitch for the price. And I want to thank Banggood right now for sending this to me to do a review on, so thanks guys. And the product links are down below in the description for both the bind and fly version, which is what I got, or the ready to fly version, which comes with the XK, their 6-channel little computerized radio. This of course is the bind and fly version. I think most people who will be getting this will probably be purchasing the bind and fly version, because this does not make, it's a scale helicopter, fragile, so it doesn't obviously make a good one to learn collective pitch flying skills on. So it would be better if you already know how to fly collective pitch, and of course if you've already got one of XK's, you know, the K100, the K110, the K120, you've probably got the XK radio, the little 6-channel computerized radio. All of XK's helicopters use Futaba's S-FHSS 2.4 gigahertz red spectrum protocol. So if you've got a 6-channel or better computerized Futaba radio, or any of the multi-protocol radios that have the Futaba S-FHSS, you can obviously pair it to one of those. Now I'm going to be pairing it to my FrSky Horus using the iRange X multi-protocol module. If you've got a jumper radio, or obviously any of the other FrSky radios with the multi-protocol module, you're good to go. So let's take a look at this little rascal, see what we get. Wow. Okay, I'll tell you right now, it looks better in person than what pictures or video can show. The detail is incredible. It's even got the step plate on the struts. It's got the little step plates on the back here. Tri-blade rotor head. It is collective pitch. It's a matte finish. This is plastic, it's not foam or anything. I thought originally the windows were just black paint, but they are. They're just really dark smoked plastic. Just another detail I noticed that is quite impressive is the way the windows are being held into the fuselage. You know, a lot of times on these things the windows are poorly glued in or even held in with some tape. These have all got small plastic pins that are melted down, basically like a little plastic rivet, to hold all the pieces of windshield in. So that is really impressive. Lots of little details. Hopefully the camera's picking this up, right from the rivets to the door handles to the doghouse latching. The exhaust is fairly well done. You know, there's seam lines that you could clean up if you wanted to, but again, pretty fragile detail. It's really neat how the front is held on. The nose section, there's tiny little rare earth magnets, 4 of them on each corner, and 4 corresponding ones on the main body of the helicopter, and it just slides on. But even has windshield wipers. So I'll just let you take a peek at it. Coreless motor in the back. Direct drive. I'm a little concerned, you know, tri-blade head going to be producing a lot of torque that this little tail motor is going to have to be correcting for, but it does have a big tail rotor blade for such a small size heli. If you're wondering what the size is, we're looking at about 26 centimeters, 27 centimeters, or about 10.5 inches. As a comparison, pretty much the same size as a T-Rex 150X. For those who like sizing their helicopters by blade length, just thought I'd give you that real quick. So from bolt hole to tip of blade, roughly 120 millimeters. Thought we'd just quickly go over the components. Your main control board is on the top. This is got the receiver circuit on it, the mixing circuit for the tail rotor, and of course your servo outputs, and the gyro stabilization circuit is for the gyro and the accelerometer. You've got a little bind button right here. That's how you bind it. You've got the outputs. This is for the ESC. Brushless motor is offset right down there. ESC is at the bottom. ESC is being fed power from the battery directly, and then it's feeding power to the control board through the 3-wire conductor. Again, your 3 servo plugs are right there, and then this 2 conductor plug is for the tail rotor motor. Servos themselves are rotary, which is nice to see. They're not linear, and it looks like out of the box they are geometry looks good. They're arranged in a 120-degree ECCPM configuration. You've got the aileron and pitch and elevator. Like I said, out of the box geometry looks good. Servo arms, all 3 are level, and that is giving us by eyeball a very level swash plate, side to side and front to back. And as far as swash height goes, blade grips are all at 0 degrees or very close to it. As I said, it's a tri-blade head. The actual head, the hub of the head, and the button are aluminum. Blade grips are plastic. Blade grips are driving it with these, it's kind of DFC style, with a washout looking arm type arrangement. They are phased, so it's already correcting for the gyroscopic precession, and that's easy to tell. Got a blade coming out at a right angle to the side, and the input should be right at the front of the swash, so you don't have to worry about phasing. As far as opening this up to get to the mechanics for maintenance or repairs, you just have these small Phillips screws. There's 2 on the bottom holding the landing struts on, and then on the right side we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the right side of the fuselage would come off, and if you want to take the left side off, you've just got the 3 screws holding it to the mechanics. Nothing on the boom because the right side is holding the boom together. Speaking of the boom, the fuselage is acting as your structural boom member. There's no carbon fiber rod from the mechanics. This is quite stiff plastic. It's not really flimsy polycarbonate. It is quite a heavy little micro. Weight-wise, the XK123 is a heavy little rascal, which is to be expected with the scale fuselage. But flying weight, as you can see, is 81 grams. For those Imperial folks, that's 2.8 ounces. And for a 1S powered micro, that is pushing the weight limit. Just as a comparison, here's a T-Rex 150X, which, as I mentioned, is pretty much identical in size. Full metal components on it, bigger servos, and a much heavier 2S battery, more powerful. It's 84 grams, so only 3 grams heavier for a much more powerful helicopter. Plus, it only has to spin 2 blades instead of 3, so even less power is being used to spin the blades. What I'm getting at is don't expect the XK123 to be a stellar aerobatic performer. It's scale weight and rather underpowered, so it's meant to be flown scale style. And on that note, save your money. Don't throw any aluminum upgrades at this thing. It's already a heavyweight little monster. Got our little charger plugged into the USB outlet, and we'll plug our battery in. It is protected. The plug is shaped so you can only plug it in one way. And a little red light comes on when it's charging. And what else do we get in here? See what kind of spares it comes with. Looks like all kinds of goodies. So, it comes with a spare tail rotor blade. Nice to see. Comes with 6 main blades. So you've got spares there if you snap your main blades. And we've got cheapy little Phillips screwdriver, and then the 3 screws to hold your blade grips on, and it even comes with a spare main gear. So that's it for the components it comes with. So just make sure there's nothing else in the box. Oh, we've got an instruction manual, and I assume it's the usual dumbed down English translation. Tells you how to bind, safety precautions. Oh, and it looks, well, it's got all the spare parts here if you need to get spare parts. Battery's finished charging. When it's finished, the red light goes off. I just want to test what the voltage is. Just make sure this charger isn't overcharging. You never know with these little cheapy chargers. Let's see what we got here on the meter. 4.186. Perfect. Plug it in and see if we can bind it. I've created a new model in my radio, the XK K123. I'm just going to go into the model setup menu, and we're going to go into our RF settings. So because I'm using the external multi-protocol module, I want the internal RF turned off, and the external RF I want to put it into the multi-module mode. And out of all the different protocols, we want to, of course, select the S-FHSS protocol. I've already done this once and it didn't bind for me originally, and I want to tell you why that is in case you run into the same problem with yours, and it's got to do with this RF frequency fine tune. You've got a range here of -127 to +127, and it starts off at 0, so you can either go on the plus side or the minus side. Now on mine I had to dial it up to around +60, and I'll just show you why that is. So you've got your radio turned on, you plug in your helicopter to the battery. And we want to just watch this little red LED here that's flashing. If it's communicating, that red LED will go solid and a little blue LED will come on beside it. But of course it's not, it's just flashing, saying that it doesn't recognize any radio signal. So we're going to hold in the bind button. And this would be the same if you have to bind it to any other radio with the S-FH protocol. So what I'm going to do is down here in this frequency fine tune, I'm going to just slowly start dialing that up. So from 0 to +1 to +2, and keep going until that red light comes on solid and the blue light. So dialing it up, dialing it up, dialing it up. There we go. Blue light is on solid, red light's on solid, and it's communicating. So I'm just going to make sure all the servo directions are set correctly in the radio. So when I give it a forward stick command, swash tilts forward, left tilts it left, tail rotor is operating in the right way, it's yawing the helicopter correctly, and you know, on my pitch curves I'm going to just set some basic tame pitch and throttle curves up to begin with. Don't like what is in the instructions. Just installing the blades here. I don't know if my kit was missing it, but these blade screws, they're not Phillips. They need a 1.5mm hex. So I don't know if my kit was missing the little Allen key. And as far as tightness goes, like any micro, you want them so the blades are leading and lagging very easily. You don't want them tight so they can't spin out to their centers easily. As far as battery sizing goes, it uses one of the stubby 500 milliamp hour 1S packs. These are 25 millimeters in width, about 8.5 millimeters in thickness, but the most critical dimension on this is the actual length, which is about 33-34. And the reason for that is when this is in the little battery tray in the helicopter, there is a little bit of wiggle room in there, but it's a fairly snug fit. But the length is important because when the canopy is on, it's pretty much almost touching that battery. And you can't slide it any further back because there's a little plate back on the battery tray which prevents the battery from sliding back and hitting the outrunner motor, which would be a bad thing, of course. So as long as you look at the dimensions of the packs when you're buying them, make sure they're those dimensions. As far as plug type goes, it uses one of the MX connectors. This is an MX 2.0, meaning the pins are 2 millimeters apart, and it's a 2P 2-pin. So an MX 2.0 2P. It's go time. Let's see how this thing is out of the box for stability, and most importantly, if I didn't dingus up any of my radio settings. So slowly spool it up. Give it some tail input. Okay, here's the first problem. I'm giving it left input and it's turning right. So I've got my rudder channel backwards. So I've got to stop it and fix that. Okay, I've reversed my rudder channel, so both my aileron and rudder channel had to be reversed. The rest are all normal, at least with my radio. So here we go. Let's see how she goes. So left rudder, turns left, right, turns right. So that's good. Give it some forward and backward cyclic. That's working. Left and right cyclic. That's working. Lift it up. Very decent out of the box trim. That's hands off. It is reactive, even with a lot of dual rate reduction, but no funny wiggles or jiggles, so gyro gains are set okay. This is in 3D mode. Let's go into the accelerometer stabilization mode. It's drifting right and forward. So we're going to have to center the accelerometer. There's a method in the instructions, but I don't like flying with accelerometer self-leveling help. Feels so artificial. So just keep it in 3D here. Quite a heavy right lean due to the left tail rotor translating tendency. Little tail rotor's countering the massive torque off of 3 blades, so it's got high thrust. But it's everything's working, so let's take it outside and do some proper flying. We've tested it inside. We know it flies well. Again, make sure the blades are fairly loose so when it spools up, they find their centers easily. If we spin it up, we can see the tracking is pretty good. No real vibration. So just going to fly it really tame and normal. I've got a really tame setup, and then we'll go into, we'll turn the dual rates off so there's 100% travel, and we'll see if we can get it inverted. And I'll just give you my thoughts on what it feels like flying it. So it is reactive, even when we've got quite a lot of dual rate on. Let me just start flying it around here.
4.
And because of that left lean, or sorry, the right lean, because of the left tail rotor translating tendency, it banks really nice, turning to the right, banking to the right, but you don't get that same amount of bank turning to the left. It's not bad, but there's a little, there's a slight variation. But it moves. Let's try to tame it down here. If you really jam on the collective, you can hear it bogging down. Tail hold is surprisingly good. It's not blowing out at all. Pirouette, it doesn't have pirouette compensation. So when you pirouette, it's going to drift. And that's low rates.
Rudder high. Idle up 1.
Go to idle up 1. So dual rate on my rudder is tail up, turned off now. So that's the kind of yaw rate you can expect. Too fast for scale. We're going to turn that back down.
Shit is about to get real.
Okay, so now we're in full power mode. I'm going to turn the dual rates off, and we'll see if we can get this thing inverted. There you can see it really bogs down when you give it full collective. The tail rotor's working its guts out. Let's see if we can get it upside down here. Try to bring it closer. So, as you can see, it will fly inverted. Not too bad. Try a loop here. Oh, yeah, when you really jam on the collective, the tail rotor loses its fight. Just too much torque coming off of those 3 rotor blades, and 1S power on a coreless brush tail motor. Not going to happen. You have to be really gentle. So it's not an aerobatic flyer. If you want to practice inverted hovering with it, can do that okay, but that's about it. So I'm going to turn it back to just normal flight mode.
Idle up 1.
Turn our dual rates back down. And now we can just fly some nice gentle scale, which is what it's meant for. And 5 minutes is pretty much tops. If you're flying at full power all the time, you're going to get about 3 minutes. But with a tame setup, it's not bad for a micro.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It is time for you to land.
See if we can take the 5 minutes and just enjoy the last 30 seconds
It is time for you to land.
of hopefully some scale flight. One nice thing about it, very easy to see. Love the white with the high contrast black windows and the red stripe. For micro, you can see it at a good distance. So, you know, a lot of the little micros are dark colors. Hard to see. This is really easy to pick up. But looks pretty good. So we'll go inside to the shop. I'll go over my final setup real quick in case anyone's curious, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this thing, pros and cons, that kind of stuff.
You really should think about landing. Normal mode.
Now that I've had about half a dozen flights on this thing outside, I've got my setup finalized. If anyone's interested, I'll just go over the values real quickly. Now this is OpenTX, so you know the menu layout's going to be different than what you're probably used to, but hopefully you'll get the idea. For my really tame dual rates, for aileron I've got 40%, elevator 35%, high amounts of dual rate, very responsive this thing is, and rudder is 50%. So that's in my low dual rates. My mid dual rate values I got all three set to 75, and high all three set to 100%. As far as exponential, I'm using positive exponential of plus 50% for aileron, elevator, and rudder in high, plus 30% for aileron and elevator in mid, and plus 10 when it's in the lowest dual rate value. I found on the rudder I had to increase the mid and 20 and the low up just a little bit because the tail rotor was quite responsive just off of center stick. So that's why those are set a little bit higher positive expo. As far as channel outputs, I've reduced the channel outputs from 90% to 80% on channel 1 and 2, which is aileron and elevator. At 90%, just too much travel on them I found. So got those down to 80. I've left channel 3, channel 4, and channel 5 at 90%. And I've really dialed down channel 6, which is the collective pitch channel, even more to 60% both directions, to make sure that the collective pitch was not over plus 10 degrees. Can't stress high enough that with the 3 blades, the 1S power just bogs it right down even at full power if you go much over 10 degrees collective. So that 60 gives about plus 10 and minus 10 at 100% on your curves on either end. And then finally on the curves themselves, throttle curves, my normal, and this is what I used to take off and land, 0 of course at low stick, then I go up to about 60, 65, 68, 70%. My first idle up, this is just for general flight, I've got a powered up throttle curve of course, starting at about, I don't know, 60% or so on the low stick, up to about 70%, and then flatline 70 all the way across. And idle up 2, which is for sport flying if you want to even try it, basically 95, 80, and 95. And hold, of course, 0% power. And my normal pitch curve, 0% to about plus 8. Pitch, my normal flying mode, about minus 2 to plus 8, plus 9, somewhere in there. And then, of course, the full aerobatic curve, a linear 0 or minus 10 to plus 10 collective range. And throttle hold, oops, that's still my setup pitch curve. We'll want to change that back to a flat line 0 degree collective pitch angle. As I said, when I hit throttle hold on my micros, I like the blades to go to 0 degrees pitch, but that's just my method. Time to wrap this up, and hopefully I can be quick about it. Sorry this is dragged on, but it's a neat little heli. As far as cons go, my biggest one is probably the tri-blade head. Just too much drag off at 3 blades, especially for a 1S powered heli, and that extra drag is causing a lot more reactive torque than just a 2-bladed head would. More torque, tail rotor's working its guts out. That's the only real down thing. Flight times, of course, are short, but it's a micro. That's to be expected. As far as pros go, okay, coming back to the tri-blade head, it looks great statically. 3 blades, you can't tell there's 3 blades when it's flying, but when it's sitting still on your desk or bench, it looks great. So the overall looks and the detail, it's just amazing. Again, pictures and the video just can't do it justice. You have to see it in person. Love the color scheme, easy to see. The flat paint is kind of nice and bad. What I've found is you don't get reflective glare off of it, so that's nice, but it marks up really easy. The white, it's grass stains, anything. If you've got a little bit of grease on your hand, it'll show up. So that's, you just have to keep it clean, right? No big deal. Comes with a nice assortment of spare parts. One part you're probably going to have to get, or I would recommend getting, is a spare tail motor. Like I said, it's working its guts out, so I can't see these tail motors lasting all that long, especially if you're trying to fly it sporty or aggressively. If you manage your collective energy and you're not producing many torque spikes, this tail motor should last a fair amount of time. The one battery, you need more batteries to have any fun with this thing. It was torture, getting 5 minutes and then having to wait for it to charge for an hour. So, like any electric helicopter, the more packs you have, the more fun you're going to have. I did find the little 1.5mm Allen key. It was hiding in a bag. I just didn't see it because I'm an idiot. So, mine did come with the Allen key. Instructions, generically good. They'll get you going, but obviously, if you know about collective pitch setup, you're going to be in a much better place. As far as the setup goes, I could not believe how almost perfect. I couldn't improve on it out of the box. They had the mechanical setup pretty much bang on. Servo arms were all level, and with them level, the blades are basically producing 0 degrees of pitch. It was great. It's probably one of the biggest impressive things next to the look of it. So that's pretty much it. If you're thinking of buying an XK123 heli, you're doing it because you love scale, not because you love aerobatic flying or anything. And I'm a scale guy myself, so of course I'm going to like this, as subjective as that is. Hopefully my little review has helped you out. If you've been considering an XK123 and wanted to know more about them, I want to thank Banggood again for sending this to me to do the review on, and I will have product links to both the bind and fly version like I got here, as well as the ready to fly version below in the description, along with spare batteries, tail motor, any other little parts that I think you might be interested in. Cheers folks, happy flights.